I love that. Thanks,
Okay.
guys. Hi.
It's so good to actually hear you. Like, and so I wrote down the date, like where we tried to do this the last time, and it's almost a month ago. I can't believe that.
No, I can't believe it. It feels like the other day, but then I actually haven't stopped since then. So
I know you've been to the States and all, haven't you?
I'm still in the States, yeah. Oh. So I've had an interesting few weeks because obviously the last time I was going to speak to you, we weren't able to make the connection. And for those of you who are listening who don't know, I was actually in triage of A&E at the time, so that's probably part of the reason why the connection wasn't working. I'd managed to get myself into hospital in that beautiful, wonderful situation of having perfect blood sugars but high ketones. Ooh. So it's always interesting trying to explain that to nurses because they take your blood sugars first, don't they? They take your glucose first. They go, your glucose is fine. And then I'm like, check my ketones and my blood pH. And they go, oh, okay. So, yes, I landed a nice 5-dayer in Manchester Royal Infirmary. And then 2 days after coming out, I had to fly to New York. And then 6 days in New York and then another flight to Los Angeles. So I'm really happy that my loop works well for me because I've battled a few time zones in the last couple of weeks. And that's always interesting because, you know, my pump's going, it's this time, I'm going to do this. And my body's going, I think it's actually this time. So
and is it harder going west or going east? I can't remember. I haven't gone to the States in so long.
Do you know, there's always a couple of days when you do a long time jump either way where I think, you know, I was having a few hypos in my first couple of days in LA, but also because it's warmer here as well. And I do drop when it's warmer. But on the way back, I don't tend to have a problem usually. I think my body just slips back into UK time very easily. So
I found one way better than the other as well, and I can't remember which one. Anyway, I'm going to introduce you, Natalie, for anybody who doesn't know you. Natalie is a lady of many, many talents. Like, she describes herself as a broadcaster, designer, and a campaigner. And you'll maybe recognize her from TV recently, like with that one. She founded her company Type 1 Clothing back in 2017 based on a really novel idea at the time, and this is where I saw you first. So being able to inject or access your skin with like for insulin. Last year, Natalie took part in and won the very first Make Me Prime Minister. She is the alternative Prime Minister. And Natalie was diagnosed with type 1 3 months before her 21st birthday, and more recently has been diagnosed with ADHD. So thank you so much for coming back.
Thank you for rescheduling and sorting it out for me to come back. I really appreciate you guys, and thank you for that lovely introduction. It was making me giggle.
Do you know, I loved your clothing line. Like, I thought it was so sassy. Like, I love things with zips. I really do. I thought I just love it. And then, just love it.
It was such a big thing for me when I was diagnosed, because as you said, I was diagnosed 3 months before my 21st birthday. And I was, a sassy girl leading up to that. I used to describe my whole fashion sense as based on Michael Jackson's Bad video. You know, that outfit, that leather outfit with all the zips and stuff like that. Oh, I love a jumpsuit with zips and things all over it. And I liked fashion. I liked to dress well and dress myself. It was a big part of my personality and my expression. And when I was diagnosed and I had to start injecting, obviously you need easy access to your stomach or your thighs or something. And I found myself slipping into just wearing leggings and sweatshirts and stuff that wasn't really me. And it started to affect how I felt about myself. It started to affect my confidence when I went out. And I didn't really feel like I was presenting my best self. And then it affected how I talked to people. And it became a big thing. And I lost a lot of confidence. My mental health wasn't very good. And one day I was sat at home and I had a lovely pair of jeans on, but they had a little tear in them. And it was an idea born out of laziness, I guess. I just did my injection through this hole, and something in my head went, ding. Like, I'm going to make some really nice looking clothes that I like. And I'm going to make these little zips and things and make it part of the design. So people don't even know that it's a practical thing. It's just fashion. And I made these pieces. I made these 12 ladies wear pieces, and I just made one of each. And I got some friends of mine to model them, and we did a little photo shoot. And I made an Instagram page and put it online, thinking, maybe 1 or 2 people might see this and they might order a piece from me, and that would be lovely. And, I might change 1 or 2 people's lives. And the next thing you know, the BBC phoned me up and said, we've seen your stuff and this is interesting. Would you like to do an interview? And I did, and it just went crazy. I got 3.5 million views in 3 days. It was retweeted by Chelsea Clinton. I got a follow from Barack Obama and Tom Cruise, bizarrely. I don't know what Tom Cruise's interest was in it, but the crazy, I already followed Barack Obama, but the crazy thing with Tom Cruise was I didn't actually follow him. So there was a moment in time where Tom Cruise followed me and I didn't follow him back.
Nice.
Of course, I did follow him back after that, but I got a screenshot first.
I know. I literally was going to ask you, did you screenshot it?
I did. I did. Well, that a lady has to keep a man guessing, doesn't she?
Here, and when you said like you love Michael Jackson at the time, when I saw a post you put up there recently, like when you were in New York. Were you down in the subway?
I was. So still, many years later, I have not changed from that little kid. I was in New York. It was my first time in New York, and I was like, I'm going to go to the subway station where they recorded the Bad video.
I love it.
And I did. We went to the actual one, my brother and his girlfriend and I. And we were these crazy tourists taking photos and going, look, they did that bit over there. And other people were just on the subway home from work looking at us going, who are these weird people taking pictures in the subway?
Oh, cool.
But right. Yeah, that was the first picture I posted of New York because it was the most exciting thing and I went to see the Michael Jackson musical on Broadway while I was there as well. So that was very awesome. If anyone gets a chance to see it when it comes to London, I highly recommend it. I went to see the
Michael Jackson experience.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that was very awesome. If anyone gets a chance to see it when it comes to London.
I know, it was phenomenal. And then, what about then make me Prime Minister then? Like, how did that come about?
Oh my goodness! So, I trained as an actor, and I've always wanted to get into broadcasting, and I've done little bits and things and podcasts and whatnot. But one thing I always said I wouldn't do was reality TV. And last year, it was about March last year, my brother saw an advert for the casting for it, and the poster simply said, "Could you do a better job than our politicians?" And he screenshot it and he sent it me with just 3 words. He wrote, "Go, go, go." And I guess, that gives a little bit of an insight into how my friends and family see me. I'm definitely the opinionated one. I'm the person who is a bit of a social justice warrior. I want to fix everybody's problems. And, I sat on it and I thought about it for a couple of days and I thought, well, there's no harm in applying. So I put in an application and they phoned me very quickly and they said, "Why do you want to do the show?" And I said, "Actually, I'm not sure that I do. You're going to have to sell it to me."
I love that.
And I guess that was what did it. And I ended up very quickly going down to London with 11 other people who were brilliant. I mean, I got there and suddenly I went, oh, actually, maybe I'm the underdog here, because some of these people have worked in politics and, they were all really serious, really wonderful candidates. And my hat goes off to all of them because they're all genuine people who came onto it wanting to change the world. There were no wannabe TV stars on there. They were really, really great people.
Characters as well.
Characters as well. Oh my goodness. Yeah, definitely some characters in there. Not least to say my opponent in episode 1, Darius, who was just, he was hilarious. I've got to say, I actually love Darius. He's a really great kid. He just talks a lot. He talks a lot.
Likes the sound of his own voice.
Oh gosh, bless him. But,
Good guy. Yeah.
he was a great guy. They really were. And of course, the indomitable Jackie Weaver. Who could forget? She was a force to be reckoned with.
Yes.
I absolutely loved Jackie. Yeah, she was great.
I was amazed she'd done it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I was. I sat down when we all first met in the green room. It was hilarious because I sat down next to her and I said, "Oh, hi, nice to meet you. I'm Natalie." And she said, "Oh, hi, I'm Jackie." And I said, "You just look really familiar, Jackie." And she kind of rolled her eyes and she went, "I'm Jackie Weaver." And I went, "Oh my God, you're Jackie Weaver." So that was absolutely hilarious. And I've got to give a shout out to Adam because obviously he became my deputy in the final because we all got to choose a deputy from past candidates who'd previously gone, and he was the best deputy I could have asked for in that final. So big shout out to Adam. He was lovely. But yeah, we did 6 weeks of challenges and policy development, international crisis management. Which, if you guys haven't seen that episode 3, I highly recommend it. It should have got a BAFTA, that episode. It was brilliant. And yeah, then I ended up in the final with 2 other women, which was incredible, an all-female political final. And somehow I went and won the thing. So
It was incredible to watch you, actually. Just even knowing all the stuff going on in the background and trying to even manage your type 1 in among it all.
That was difficult because I had to come off my loop as well because I wasn't allowed to have my phone. We weren't allowed to have our phone or the internet or anything at all throughout filming. So I had to go back to using my receiver for my Dexcom and my PDM for my Omnipod and carrying all that around with me in a little bag and some sweets and things. So yeah, it definitely wasn't easy. And actually we had another type 1. I don't know if she's listening to this space right now, Verity. But we had another type 1 on the show, Verity, who I didn't actually get to work with. She was the girl with the very long dark hair, very sassy. She sadly left the show in episode 3 when, as part of Danny's team, they dropped a missile on another country.
As you do.
As you do. My team thought we thought we'd done badly in that episode, and then we came out and found out the other team had dropped a missile, and we kind of went, "Whew, we're okay."
Well, at least you didn't try to blag it. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, absolutely. So Verity, she'd only been diagnosed 2 years before going on the show, and I said to her, "Gosh, you are brave. I couldn't have done a reality show 2 years after diagnosis," but she did, and we had a few hairy moments. But what was really funny was that we had an on-site medic. But anytime she had a crisis, she shouted at them, "I only want Natalie to touch me." So she didn't want the medic to treat her. She wanted me to come and treat her. So, that was really heartwarming. And we built a lovely friendship out of that. So,
I don't trust any medics.
I don't trust the medic. I only trust the other type 1 diabetic.
Natalie, we've got a message on our chat hangout tonight. So diabeteschat.net/hangout. As Norman says,
Brilliant.
Where can I watch this? Where is it streamable? Where can we watch this?
I think it is still available on All 4.
Brill.
So you could watch it on the All 4 app or at all4.com.
Check it out.
It's called Make Me Prime Minister.
It's definitely on Channel 4 because it's just showing up there.
Super.
I'm interested, Natalie, that you said that you weren't allowed to have phones on set, which I totally get. Would they not make an accommodation for you that you could have put your APS on a phone, like taking the SIM card out or something, so it wouldn't? It would just be a receiver then.
Do you know what? If I'd been smart enough to suggest that to them, then perhaps they would have done that. But it was such a rush. I found out I was going on the show 3 days before I had to be in London, and they told me to bring 20 television-worthy outfits with me.
Oh my gosh.
So
I think I might have won.
I've been in black a lot of the time.
Yeah.
I went on the biggest Zara shopping spree you've ever seen in your life. And then packed my bags and it was all a bit of it. And then I got there and at first they'd said they'd make an exception and let me have my phone. And then they changed their mind when I got there. And so I kind of went, okay, well, I've got my receiver and my PDM, and we just did it like that. But luckily, I'm, an old hand at this now, so it's a bit easier.
Right, I'm going to kick off our 90-second questions, I think, maybe, because...
we'll never get through it.
No, and like, Natalie, I don't know if you realise, right, like, but me and Flipper are a bit chatty, and I know with, like, even with us chatting before the event you did with JDRF, we chatted for ages as well, and I am sorry, because it maybe was my fault.
No, well, I love chatting. I think I'm probably the chattiest one. Surely, are we
I don't know.
Is there a crown? Does the winner get a prize?
There's a prize for everyone.
Oh, it's Oprah. You get a prize. You get a prize.
Yes, exactly. So the 90-second questions are just like a bit of quick fire questions, right? And so you talked that you're on a DIY system. So I'll start at the start, right? So tell us your name and occupation now. Like, so we know your name, but tell us what you're doing.
So right now, I'm out in Los Angeles. I'm working with a record label out here at the moment, and we're just syncing some music for Netflix and Paramount and films and TV shows, and doing a little bit of that. I'm also doing some consulting work with a couple of charities who are wonderful charities, so I want to give them a shout out. Reset Charity, which is a charity that looks to build mental resilience in frontline emergency workers. Wow. And also another charity called Epic Hope, which is a suicide awareness and sort of prevention charity. It's a talking charity, a networking charity, and they're both amazing. So just wanted to give both of them a shout out, Reset and Epic Hope.
Cool. They sound brilliant.
They're amazing.
And you used to work in the NHS too, didn't you? Or do you still do?
I did. No. So I worked in the NHS basically for most of my career, whilst jobbing as an actor and doing little things. And I left to do the show last year, and that was it was the right time for me because it just so happened the show coincided with the sort of end of the 2 or 3 years of COVID period in healthcare that I'd worked through, and I was chief operating officer of a hospital during that period, and it really burnt me out, and I was already thinking that it was time for me to step away from healthcare at that point, and I just so happened to do the show. So yeah, that all just happened very organically last year.
That must have been so hard. What a change. But
it was, because I always, when I joined the NHS, I always thought it was a career I would do for life. Mm-hmm. And I certainly achieved lots of things and did a lot of things that I'm very proud of in that career. But I did look into it afterwards. How long does anybody stay as a chief exec of a hospital? And the average is 2.5 years that anybody stays in that position. And I think to do it was a big step up for me at the time. It wasn't a job. It was a job that sort of just happened. And for it to happen at the same time as COVID, it did take a lot out of me. And I recognised myself that I had to take a step back and look after myself a bit more. There were periods which I'm definitely not proud of, where I worked, had to go on a drip for a bit, and then went back to work in my own hospital.
That's ridiculous.
So it was just. You guys know that's what happened during COVID. It was just it was all hands on deck.
Yeah, and there was you trying to sign into the chat there a few weeks ago, like on a drip.
That's my whole mentality, though. I'm like, just get it done.
I'm all right. If it connects, we'll talk. We'll just go ahead.
It's fine. It's fine. The drip's in my arm, not in my mouth.
Oh, you're a nutcase.
I definitely am. That's absolutely 100% true.
Right, we've talked that you're on DIY. When was the last time you ever did a finger prick?
Oh my gosh. Actually, I did one just a couple of days ago because I was a little bit worried that my CGM was off because I felt low and it was saying I was 9 and I was like, but actually I just think I just didn't feel very good because I did a finger prick and it was exactly the same as my CGM. So
bonus question with this one was your Lancet new?
No. And I will caveat that finger prick, there was a long time between that finger prick and the one before it, I have to say.
I believe it. It's like in our house, it's like looking for the finger prick.
And honestly, I was like, I definitely packed it. I know I packed it and brought it. It was just like, where was it?
Oh God, yeah, and you probably have a better chance of finding it in Los Angeles than at home. Like sometimes,
that's it. I've only got a suitcase worth of stuff. So
yeah. So are you hyper aware then? Like, so you felt that low when you were saying that you were your CGM was saying you were something else. That says to me like that you got a bit of hyper awareness. What's it normally like?
I have got a bit of hyper awareness, but it's very subtle and it usually doesn't come on until I'm under 3. So it's not great. But I just felt a little bit shaky, but I've been doing loads of hiking and loads of things like that here. So sometimes it is just, my muscles are a bit shaky. I'm just doing a lot of exercise, but you have that PTSD, don't you? Where you're like, my muscles feel shaky. Am I hypo?
I know.
So,
yeah. Especially when you're in somewhere that's not safe.
Well, exactly. And, I definitely don't want to end up in hospital here because I can't afford it. So, make sure you're okay, Nat. I'm extra vigilant over here. So.
Oh, how your mind works.
Honestly.
What's your go-to hypo treatment then? Your favorite and your practical one.
So I love orange juice. Mm-hmm. I am obsessed with orange juice, and I always have loads of little bottles of orange juice because it's like you open a big bottle and then you don't have another hypo for 5 days and the bottle goes off and you both chuck it. So I've got loads of little bottles of orange juice, but it's not always practical to carry around bottles of orange juice, especially if you're going out on a long day. So I really like naked bars. Oh, I don't know if you guys know. Those raw dried fruit and nut bars. They do an almond macaroon one. Oh, they're divine. And it doesn't matter if they get a bit squished in your bag and stuff. So
yeah, that's true.
They're pretty great. Naked bars. And they get my bloods up really quickly because it's dried fruit. So
lovely. Yes. Well, that is maybe I'm just I'll finish with this one. What's one thing you like about having diabetes and one thing that you struggle with, and feel free to add in your ADHD bit into that too, like in that, because like there's like positives and negatives with that, I know.
Yeah, you read my mind there because the best bit about having diabetes has been it's given me a community. I was a bit of an awkward kid. I wasn't, always part of the popular crowd, and a mixed race. So that's a big identity challenge when you don't feel like you fit in with either one of your ethnic communities because you're neither. Both of you are like, you're not quite us. So yeah, community was a big thing for me growing up, and weirdly, diabetes gave me that community very quickly, and gave me opportunities. And I wouldn't have done a lot of the stuff that I've done in my life if it hadn't been for diabetes. So all of that is really crazy to think about. It's all really positive. And yeah, the negative, especially before I got the diagnosis of ADHD, I just thought, God, I am really rubbish sometimes at managing my diabetes. And especially when I was on injections as well, because I give myself an injection and immediately forget, like, did I give myself that?
Oh, I don't know.
And then you're sat there going, well, I don't want to give myself another one in case I'd given it to myself. But also, how long am I going to wait to find out if I didn't give it to myself?
Yeah.
So that was really hard. And, you know, having a diagnosis doesn't suddenly fix that. But it certainly made me go, okay, there is a problem. I need to think of strategies. And then, of course, I'm on a DIY loop now, so it does make it a lot easier because it automatically records everything it's given me. So, you know.
You still have to change your pod, though. You still have to change your pod.
Still have to change. And I did it the other day. My pod died at like 6 a.m. and I rolled over and turned it and, you know, disconnected it because I was like, it's too early. I'll get up in a minute. And of course, I got up, went out to the shop, got a coffee, and then went, oh crap.
Oh yeah.
And of course, by this point, I'm like 17, and I'm like, great. Now I feel sick, and go home and put a pod on and wait for it to come down, and have several glasses of water, and go to the toilet several times.
I know. Yeah. Oh well, so, yeah, it's just the strategies, isn't it? Like to at least help.
Yeah, that's it. You know, and I mean, I guess a part of me, I knew I had ADHD before I got the official diagnosis. The diagnosis was a long process, but you know, I chose to, of my own accord, get the stuff that I needed to build my own loop in 2019, and obviously several iterations of my loop, because I had the one that had the Raspberry Pi first of all, and just carry around a great big battery pack and the Raspberry Pi and the Riley Link and everything. So, you know, I obviously consciously did that because I knew I needed help.
Yeah.
So
I find that really interesting. Right, I'm going to pass you over to Philippa now, who's going to talk a little bit more about your diabetes journey.
Okay.
Hi. Yeah, hi Natalie. Hi, I'm intrigued about you and naked bars, because I use naked bars as something for a slow release if I'm going for a walk or something. It's amazing how different people are. Yeah, I love naked bars.
Wow. I love naked bars. I really do. They are absolutely great.
Macaroon ones, I agree. Very nice. I also like the lemon drizzle. But anyway.
Oh, yes. The lemon drizzle and the bakery muffins.
Oh, nice.
The Bakewell. Yes, the Bakewell. Oh, because they're just all nice, aren't they? We go, oh, and this one. Oh, and this one.
I was just going to say I could go through the whole list. But anyway. I know we mentioned in the intro that you were just before your 21st birthday, you were diagnosed. Do you just want to give us a sort of, just share your diagnosis story?
Yeah. So I was away at university and having a good time, and I just very recently started dating this boy, and you know, I was going out and shopping and having a good time, and I hadn't been home, but I had noticed that I was losing weight, and I just thought, in my infinite wisdom, that this was the moment that they tell you that, you know, you become an adult and all the puppy fat drops off. And I was like, this is amazing. I'm not exercising, I'm not eating any different, but the weight is just falling off me. This is incredible. And I did notice a couple of other things which I didn't think about again until retrospectively, which was, you know, I used to get false nails put on at the time because I was 20, and I remember looking at them and going, I haven't had my nails filled in for 4 weeks and they haven't grown. How interesting. Oh, well, it means I've saved some money. Don't have to get my nails filled in. Great. And then one day, the guy I was dating, he said to me, you need to put less makeup on. Your skin looks all powdery. And I was like, I haven't got any makeup on. He was like, your skin's all powdery and grey. And I was like, okay. And one day, and the final thing was, before I went home, was that I went out on a Tuesday to buy something to go out in on the weekend, and I bought this lovely pair of glittery shorts, and I tried them on the Tuesday, fine, no problem, and on the Friday I went to put them on and I did the button up and they fell to the floor.
Oh my goodness.
And I think I've always remained my natural weight most of my life, and that's about 9.5 stone, and I dropped to just under 6 stone.
Oh, that's massive.
And
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how many weeks it was because I hadn't noticed. But I went home just after Christmas, early January, on my holidays, and my dad looked at me and he said, "You're anorexic." And I was like, "No, I'm not. I'm eating loads. Look all this food that I'm eating." And he was just like, "Yeah, whatever." Took me to the doctor and his local GP, and the GP said to me, "So just tell me in general how you're feeling." And I was like, "I'm fine. I'm just really thirsty all the time." And she went, "Oh," and she pricked my finger, and my bloods were like 30 something.
Yeah.
And she said, my dad lives in a place called Malvern, which is right in between Hereford and Worcester. And she said, "Hereford or Worcester?" And I said, "What do you mean?" And she said, "Well, we're in the middle, so you might as well pick which hospital you want to go to." And I went, "Sorry, what?" And the next thing I knew, I was in hospital, and there was a nurse going, "This is how you do an injection. You'll do these for the rest of your life." And I was like, "Excuse me?"
It's such a shock, isn't it? Yeah.
And because I was 20, I was on the adult pathway. And so I was just left to my own devices. And I can tell you now, at 20, I absolutely did not feel like an adult. And I absolutely was not knowledgeable enough to learn how to figure it all out by myself. And the fact that I didn't die in the first few years after my diagnosis is pure luck. I always tell people that it's pure luck. I didn't even know that it was to do with carbohydrates until 4 years after diagnosis, when I was finally offered a carb counting course in hospital, because I came in floods of tears, having a hypo at the front desk.
I was, just over 30 when I was diagnosed. And I know you're saying with 20, and don't get me wrong, I know 20 is a lot younger and there's a lot more happening in your life at them. But I would say the same. There were a lot of things that people may have said to me, but you're just not in the state to take it all in.
Yeah.
So I can't tell you if I wasn't told or I just didn't retain the information.
You probably weren't told. I don't think anybody, because I can remember what they told me, and they gave me some insulin, and it must have been mixed insulin. It had to have been mixed insulin. And because I wouldn't have been put on the bolus and basal regime until I'd done Daphne. But they put me on a mixed insulin, and they said, "What do you usually have for lunch?" And I said, "I don't know, a cheese sandwich." And she said, "Right, give yourself about 4 units for a cheese sandwich." And that was it. And they sent me off into the world. And I was like, "Well, what do I give myself for anything else?" And this is how silly and naive I was. I thought that you gave yourself more insulin if the food was more bad for you. You know, that really quantifiable figure of badness of food. Yeah. So I decided, if I ate a bowl of bran flakes, for example, I'd be like, "Well, that's really healthy, so I don't need any insulin for that." But if I had a fry up, some eggs, some beans, some meat, I'd be like, "Well, that's really bad for you, so I'm going to have loads of insulin for that."
It is strange what you pick up, isn't it, and what you don't. And I don't know, what year was it you were diagnosed? Sorry,
I was diagnosed in January 2007, and I didn't do a carb counting course until the summer of 2011.
I was just wondering, because I was diagnosed in 95, and at that point they didn't teach carb counting.
No, I'm pretty sure they did. They
meals.
did.
So they sort of showed you that you need to eat this for breakfast, this for your snack, this for lunch. So it was like quite not restrictive, as in you could eat what you wanted, but you had to have a certain amount.
Yeah, no, I wasn't told any of that. I was told 4 units for a cheese sandwich. I was being seen in the wonderful City Hospital in Birmingham, which I know is of high repute.
I was given a diabetic eating plan in 97, and I've taken a picture. I'm going to put it in the chat. And it prescribes what to eat for breakfast, mid-morning, lunch, and it has fresh fruit or fruit juice, porridge or whole grain cereal. And I have a tick beside each one of those, so I can have a piece of fresh fruit, a bowl of porridge or whole grain cereal, a third of a pint of milk, 2 slices of wholemeal bread, and tea or coffee. And then mid-morning, I can have tea, coffee, or a sugar-free drink, 1 sandwich or scone, or 3 plain biscuits.
Yeah.
Class.
Wow.
I'll share it.
Yeah.
So
That would be
me eating half a packet of chocolate digestives was definitely not recommended.
I think the dietitian knew that she had her work cut out with me when I was saying, well, that's fine, because she was like with Mary, like, oh, in a snack you can have an apple or this. I'm like, yeah, but what if you really want a bar of chocolate? Said, well, you have an apple. And I just sort of looked at her like, are you listening to what I'm saying?
Yeah, that would never happen. That just wouldn't happen. My idea of eating fruit is eating a naked bar.
Hey, healthy. So
it works.
So adult care, you were just sort of thrown at, and I appreciate, because I think the same here, that you just sort of get put straight in to I can't remember how often it was it 6 monthly or something like that?
Do you know, I think I messed up my own thing, because I was in my last year of uni, and so within less than a year of my diagnosis, maybe even less than 6 months, I'd left and moved up to Manchester.
Mm-hmm.
So I then moved cities as well. So I probably didn't get all of the initial care in the first year that I might have got if I'd stayed in one city. And then, of course, I went almost straight into sort of GP care in Manchester, and then had to be re-referred to a hospital. And my GP was absolutely useless. She really was awful. Because I remember her noticing, oh, there's a little bit of protein in your urine sample or whatever, and immediately giving me a prescription for ACE inhibitors. And I happened to have a hospital appointment straight afterwards, and I had the prescription in my hand. The consultant was like, oh, you've got a prescription already? And I said, oh, I've been to the GP, and she said, I need ACE inhibitors because there's protein in my urine. And he almost snatched it out of my hand and tore it up. And he said, you're 24. He said, I'm not. You've got a little bit, but just get your blood sugars better and it'll go away. So I'm not putting you on ACE inhibitors.
Oh.
So,
and was there any emotional support at that point? Did anybody ever mention the emotional side of your diagnosis?
No. And I was very, very negatively impacted. I went back to A&E a couple of times in what people of my dad's generation would call a nervous breakdown. I'm not sure how I would describe it, but I completely went into some kind of psychosis a couple of times after diagnosis, and I'd already struggled with depression and obviously undiagnosed ADHD all my life.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was absolutely heightened after that, and I spent several years on sertraline, which I was then able to successfully come off, and that's amazing. And then, of course, I'm now dealing with ADHD and the question of whether or not I want to take medication for that, because you know, I've got diabetes to think about and everything else and whatever. So yeah, it's all been a journey, but I'm very grateful for the journey. I feel generally like the more I go through, just the more experienced I've become, and so I just generally feel in a better place. And yeah, you know you're going to have difficult moments again. There are going to be ebbs and flows, but you feel better prepared to deal with those.
You know, you can deal with. I think that's one of the things I'd say, and I think all of us are very adaptable. And if we know there's going to be a problem, we're very good at planning a way around it or coping with it and trying to find a solution like that. Can I just ask you one question? Because we're talking about your diagnosis of ADHD. How does that affect you? And I'm going to be really sort of honest here, that I know it as I could probably give you a layman's wrong description of what it is. How would you describe it?
So the common thing and the reason why girls particularly were underdiagnosed with ADHD is that there was this common misconception that ADHD meant a physical hyperactivity. And I'm not physically hyperactive. But what was less understood and we're more aware of now is that it's actually also a mental hyperactivity, which I absolutely do have. I have racing thoughts, and there are many ways where ADHD crosses over with autism. I, for example, am very socially aware. I know in my head how you conduct yourself in social situations. However, I have a problem with interrupting people with something that is 5 steps ahead of the conversation, because that's where my mind has already got to, and I blurt it out. And I really can't help it. It's something I'm really embarrassed about, very conscious of. And that's just one of my ADHD symptoms, not one that particularly impacts my diabetes, but that's one of the things that I have. I also have massive problems with insomnia. I can't sleep for racing thoughts. And interestingly, and this is common with a lot of people with ADHD, coffee helps me sleep.
Oh, wow.
So, unlike people who have coffee for breakfast, I have coffee for bed because it helps calm the racing thoughts somehow. Don't know how. I think it just focuses you, caffeine, and you kind of, instead of having loads of racing thoughts, you can just think, calm, sleep, whatever. But the way that ADHD has impacted my diabetes, and which I touched on a little bit, is I am very, very good at immediately going, right, I'm going to do this, and then in the next thought forgetting it. Other examples of how I do this is, if you read the back of a packet of how long you're going to put something in the oven, and I read the packet, put it in the bin, and I've immediately forgotten as soon as I put it in the bin what the time was. I
was going to say, I didn't think I had ADHD, but I might have. or a bad memory. I'm getting old.
But it's a constant thing, and it's all the time with everything. And weirdly, my long-term memory is incredible. Like, people comment on my long-term memory, like, how have you remembered those details of that and that from that day? And but yeah, my immediate mind is just so cluttered with, I will start one task, go up, like halfway through it, go and do something else. And I saw a great ADHD meme about this the other day, which said, my ADHD is so bad that I started cooking a soup and halfway through went out to get my car valeted. And that's the kind of thing you just go from. And I never start and finish a task. I'll start one task, start a second task, start a third one, go back and finish the first one. And it isn't something that I ever thought was.
Do you think it's
I just thought.
Do you think it's organised in your own head, Natalie? The way you're doing it, you say go in from first to third to second, then you come back to the first. Do you think it's quite organised, or not? If that makes sense.
It's not organised, but to me, it's logical.
Yeah.
Because I kind of have a type of logic that I just think isn't patterned right. It's just not normal. Because if I, for example, I'm doing a piece of work and I tear up a piece of paper and I go, I'm going to go and put this in the bin. I'll go and put it in the bin. But then when I get to the bin, I'm like, oh, well, the bin needs emptying. So then I'll go and empty the bin. And then I'll take the bin outside and I'll be like, oh, well, the car needs washing. So I'll do that while I'm here. Because everything in my mind, it's like, well, it's while I'm here now, so I'll do this. But actually, I'm only 20 steps away from the work that I was supposed to be doing in the first place.
It is interesting, though, isn't it, with ADHD and with autism, as you say, that it's so often misdiagnosed in girls, because what they call typical symptoms are male predominantly.
Yes.
That girls tend to be able to mask it better.
Oh, we absolutely do. We absolutely do, because another big part of it with ADHD and autism is one of the first things they ask you is, do you try to fit in? And you're like, yeah. I've always felt odd in myself, and so you study other people to try and, okay, they're doing that. That's how I'll do it. Oh, they nod at this point. Right, you nod when people do this. Oh, right, this is what people do when. So yeah, and that's why it's hard for me when I'm aware about the things I can't control. For example, the butting in bit, because I know that that's not what people do.
Yeah,
but I can't help doing it.
But you can't help doing it. Oh, well, a bit like me and Mary just talking.
I
I'm trying not to
That's
put in
why I
here.
like it.
I honestly
No, but
am.
I actually like it. I like it. I'm aware that other people don't always like it. It's my kind of conversation. Like I can hear everyone when we're all talking over each other. It's
Me
great.
too.
Oh, I'm loving this chat with
Oh,
you.
join our club, Natalie. Join our club.
It is absolutely fabulous listening to you wonderful women chatting tonight. It's just loving it. Power to the woman tonight. Loving it.
That's it. Beyonce said it, didn't she? Girls rule the world.
Yeah.
But the presenting
So-
in presenting differently in girls and women is like, it's beyond fascinating, because like they're women and girls are so less diagnosed. That's not even the right term. Underdiagnosed.
Yes.
And
Yes.
you were talking about the masking and everything too. And I'm here trying not to butt in and ask, like, how did you finally go and try and get diagnosed?
I guess one of the first things that for me was my one of my best friends, her daughter is on the spectrum. And when she was talking about the diagnosis and the questions that they were asking of her daughter, I was going, oh, well, I know what my answer to that question would be, and I don't think that's good. And then it kind of, I sat on it and it kind of started to make a lot of things make sense. And I keep going back to the butting in thing, because that was one that I was really conscious of. And I was like, I know I do that. And I know that my brain's gone there, and I don't want to do that, but it's a reflex. So I kind of thought, well, maybe I'll just speak to somebody. And I started the process with the NHS, and I started speaking to them, and they were kind of going, oh, yes, but we also think you should speak to this person. And yes, but you should also speak to this person. And in the end, I got so frustrated, because trying to tell a person with ADHD that they've got to fill in another form and then another form. And I was like, is this some kind of cruel torture?
Yeah.
So I ended up, I spent a fair bit of money for a private referral, private assessment. And they said, yeah, you've absolutely got ADHD. And also, I've gone back for another referral to the NHS to talk about something else, but that's another thing. But yeah, so then I'm now having a conversation about whether or not I want to try medication. And
yeah, I was really fascinated with the coffee and because coffee is a stimulant, and like the medications for ADHD are stimulants, but not stimulants for anybody who has ADHD. They're calmers.
Yeah, that's absolutely it. That's exactly right. The
and the stigma behind taking that.
Oh, well, that's part of it, and you know, it's the reason that I didn't take sertraline. I probably didn't take sertraline for 10 years after I should have started taking it, and it massively affected my whole teenage life. Can you imagine being a teenager and having no joy in anything, and no interest in anything? It affects your development into adulthood. But I was that teenager, so that's why another reason I said, you know, I really struggled with communities before I was diagnosed with type 1, because I had depression from very early in my life, and so I didn't have any hobbies. I didn't have any interest in things. So when I finally did take sertraline, and that changed my life. Now, going into this conversation about ADHD meds, I'm less bothered about the stigma, because, you know, the stigma got in my way last time.
Yeah.
So this time I'm like, I'm probably, you know, I've been offered a prescription for modafinil, which, as you rightly say, is a stimulant. But it's not a stimulant to people with ADHD. No. It's a calmer. It makes you focus. And so, yeah, it's quite likely when I get back from Los Angeles, I'll start taking a prescription for that, and we'll see how I get on.
Brilliant.
I suppose that's maturity as well, isn't it, in a way? And I'm just listening, because I think you do get, the older you get, I guess a bit more like, well, I'll try it, and if it doesn't work, well, we'll find something else.
Yes.
But until you've tried it, who knows, you know?
Well, absolutely. And, you know, I'm all for people who find natural ways of dealing with things that work for them. but I have complex PTSD from the age of 5. I have type 1 diabetes and I have ADHD. So these are things that they need treatment. They are chemical imbalances. They require treatment, and of course it's always patient's choice. But why not try it? And
Yeah.
like I said, when I tried sertraline, which I'd resisted for so long, it literally changed my life.
Mm.
And you've come across as so confident, Natalie, and even how you seem so resilient as well, and you're still positive. Like I feel so sad for you as a child. Like,
I still have that grief for my inner child, and I feel sad for my inner child. But yeah, I don't know what it is. I think it's something intrinsic in me that has to find the positive. I have to find the silver lining, and I've often found in doing that those things that are often labelled as a vulnerability or a weakness can end up being a beautiful strength if you accept it, and then others accept it because you've accepted it.
yeah, like you haven't talked about when you were small, and I don't know if you want to, but like you,
I'm happy to, yeah.
like you haven't had it easy at all.
No. I lost my mum to cancer when I was 5, and very sadly, my dad did his best, but when you're a single parent, and especially a white father of a mixed race child in the late 80s and early 90s, there's only so much that my dad was able to provide that was within his scope. And I struggled a lot with, what any normal child would struggle with the lack of having their mom there, like that emotional support, not just the physical, get you to school and make sure you're fed and all that stuff, but the lack of my culture and seeking my identity and being in places where I suffered a lot of racism early on. But
you need a lot of other people's help, like with different things going on in your health and in from losing your mom and having a mixed race ethnicity too. Did that really affect things? I'm sure it did.
Oh, massively. It's part of the reason the charities that I mentioned I was working with before, I work with them very purposefully. I've been in frontline healthcare or managed them, and had to have mental resilience. I've also been somebody who struggled with suicidal thoughts in their life, so they're charities that are personal to me, and it has been a struggle, but the overwhelming profound feeling that those struggles left me with was that I just never wanted anyone else to feel like that. So that was kind of like my purpose. I was like, well, all of these things have happened for a reason, and my reason is I'm still here. I am positive. I've made something out of myself and found happiness. And like I said, it is ebbs and flows, and you go up and down. But I'm good, and I want to help other people be good. I don't want other people to struggle unnecessarily.
Yeah, and I remember doing a questionnaire for a research thing, and a question on it was, how do you pull yourself back out? Because you talk about ebbs and flows, and we all have ebbs and flows, and some of our are some are lower and some are higher, and but how do you pull yourself back out? Like for your diabetes, like I mean specifically, because our baseline is quite high, has to be.
Yeah. If you don't feel able or willing to look after yourself and you've got diabetes, then that's a big problem.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very, very present and real imminent problem. So yeah, I let myself feel things. I think I really just, if I have to have I've been on my own my whole life. So for me, I've learned to do things without help. If you have access to help, always take the help. Always, always, always take the help. I recommend that to everyone. And it's part of what Epic Hope do. So that's really important. But for me, being on my own, I've learned to let it all out, cry when I have to cry, feel the things that I have to feel, call anyone that I need to call, and go to sleep. Usually, sleep it off, and then try. And I have a dog for a very specific reason, because he forces me to get up in the morning and go out for a walk and breathe fresh air, and then just try and do one thing. And this sits really well with my depression, my ADHD, and all of this, is that if I can just achieve one small task in a day, and sometimes it is just a small task, like replying to one email.
Yeah.
If I can get that done that day, I'll consider that a good day, and I'll go, pat on your back, Nat, you did it. You turned your computer on and you replied, and you got that ticket off. And then maybe the next day I'll do something else. And then maybe by the third day I'm going, I can actually get a couple of hours done. And you just have to let yourself, don't bully yourself. That's one thing I've stopped doing in the last few years. I've stopped bullying myself. And I've started going, I'm okay. I'm not a bad person. There are a lot of people in this world who are really bad people, and I'm not one of them.
Oh gosh, yes.
So that's how you pick yourself back up.
And I think the thing is, all of us, I don't think we give ourselves credit for what we actually do each and every day. We get up and we start again. And even people who are saying, I'm not doing anything, I'm not doing that. And I'm thinking, hey, you're alive and you're not in hospital at this moment. And even if you were, it's like, actually, just think of all the extra things you do. And it's just amazing. Even if you think you're doing nothing, if you're giving yourself an injection for a meal, if you've bolus for a meal, you deserve high fives all round.
Absolutely. We don't give ourselves enough pats on the back. It's hard to keep yourself alive. It's hard to keep your house tidy sometimes. Sometimes I know my mental health is bad because I let my house get to a point where it's like all of my plates and bowls and cutlery are dirty, and I'm like, right, I've got nothing to eat with now. Okay, and then I go on a blitz and sort it all out, and it's okay again. But you can't bully yourself for that. I've stopped worrying. Obviously, I don't want to hurt anybody, but I'm stopped worrying too much about what other people's opinion is of me, or what I think other people think I should be doing. I'm just doing my best. I'm not doing anything harmful. My uncle used to say to me, my late uncle used to say, as long as you're not hurting anybody, do whatever you want.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing. It's the focusing on what you are doing rather than worrying and beating yourself up about what you're not.
Yeah.
It's just a different viewpoint on the same situation, but a lot more positive. Do you think, because you are such a positive person by the sounds, what I sort of know of you, and you're definitely an ideas person, because when I listened to a couple of podcasts you've done, and you're sort of like sparking off the whole time with, and then I thought this, so I went and did that, and then I saw that, so I thought I'd go and do that.
That's my ADHD as well. Every day I was
just going to say, do you think it's a bit of a superpower in a way that it springboards you, and this is, again, apologies if I'm saying this all wrong, but because you just do, whereas I would sit here mulling over and considering the 352 reasons it was a bad idea, that you just like, hey, let's just go and do it.
I do think that it is a bit of a superpower, because sometimes my friends go to me, how do you just pull things off? And I'm like, I don't overthink it. If it feels right and it seems right, I'm going to give it a go. And I fail like everybody else. I don't pull everything off. But I think sometimes when I just sort of follow my heart, and I see an idea or I see a solution to a problem, and I go, well, that seems easy. And it harks back to that sometimes the simplest solution is the best one. And sometimes we do overthink things. I think especially in politics, they massively overthink things sometimes. You know, sometimes the simple answers really are the true ones, and
Yeah.
people might not like it always, but the simple answer is often the right one.
And I think it's also not fearing failure.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't fear failure because we all fail, and I always like that phrase: the master has failed more times than the beginner has even tried.
Oh, nice
You know,
one.
you know, because we have, and I sit in rooms with people, and I'm always learning from other people. But sometimes I sit in a room with somebody who's got 30, 40 years on me, and they go, "Oh, you've really taught me something there." So it's just, I like to think that we're all limited by our own perspectives. None of us can know everything. So the more you talk to people, the more you're probably going to learn something.
Do you think from our own health vulnerabilities, like, and knowing that, like, there's no perfect in type 1 at all, because like in another thread, like I don't know if it was still, was it today or yesterday, but like our beta cells have died, but we're only just replacing the insulin, not the C-peptide, not the amylin, not all those things. So we're never going to replace the function of our beta cells with just insulin.
No.
And knowing that, like, despite all we do, we're not going to be perfect. And I think it really helps in business and in politics, and like there's no perfect. The striving for perfection is just peeing into the wind.
And I have another lovely quote for that, which is that you don't have to be perfect to inspire people. You inspire people with how you deal with your imperfection.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's so true, because, like, you're right, perfect isn't real. No. Nothing is perfect. In fact, even when you look into physics and astrophysics and the way that the universe is built, the maths in that is imperfect. It's asymmetrical because our world isn't perfect. So I think perfection is a something that you will chase that will only make you sad, because you'll never get it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
we're getting
be perfectly imperfect.
Perfect, yes.
In every single way.
Absolutely. Yeah. No. And then, you know, and like I said, the things that are different about you are usually the things that will be your success. That's what makes you special. That's what makes you stand out. And we need to flip it from considering those things an oddity or a vulnerability and consider them unique.
And it's freeing. It's actually freeing. Like when you don't put that pressure on yourself. Like my little tagline is that, like, Mary Poppins, like, but it's like Mary Murphy, perfectly imperfect in every single way.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, it's true. It's true. Gosh, I am so far from perfect that I revel in it.
I know. Yeah. Yes. I now have an image.
Oh gosh, but all I can say is when I've had meetings over here, people go, "Oh God, you are so LA," and I'm like, I'm going to choose to take that as a compliment.
Are they really laid back too?
Oh yes, and they just love it. I love the energy here. It's brilliant. It's very, having spent 6 days in New York and then coming back to LA, you're like, oh, you can feel your blood pressure dropping.
I think it might be a UK Republic of Ireland kind of thing as well. It's just like the everything just relaxes. The button goes on your jeans, like across the border. it's different.
Yeah.
It's same country, different.
Oh, it's wildly different. I mean, I had a wonderful experience on the New York subway, which I've been telling everybody, with a guy who came onto the subway and started pitching his novel to everyone in the subway carriage. It was brilliant. I mean, I have to say, it actually sounded like a great novel. But the thing that got me was that he knew people weren't looking at him, avoiding eye contact. He did not care one iota. And he was broadcasting it for everyone to hear. And he finished with, "It's going to be the New York subway's #1 bestseller." Which I just thought was great.
Man.
You wouldn't get that in LA.
Oh, you wouldn't get in London either. They wouldn't even say hello to you.
No. Oh dear.
Oh. What about good stuff? Not that this isn't good stuff.
Some good stuff.
Yeah, what do you love doing, Natalie? Like, what do you love doing?
I just love going out and meeting people. I love talking to people. I love. Obviously we've already established I'm a big music fan. So music history. I like to go out and geek on music and arts, culture, and those kind of things, and museums and whatnot. But yeah, other than that, I just like to do stuff like this where I get to interact with people. It's great.
And like, what motivates you? What make to keep doing that? Like, because you could be doing other things.
I mean, I just believe in the power of collective energy. So I feel like we have had so many benefits and so many advantages. I mean, I grew up in the sort of last generation, I think, of people who remember life before the internet. So I was like 13, 14, when we had a dial-up modem and we were allowed like 10 minutes on the internet. And, you couldn't use the internet and the phone at the same time. My nieces and nephews don't believe me. I play them the dial-up modem sound sometimes, and they're like, "Oh, what is that horrible noise?" Yeah, and I'm like, "That's the internet," and they're like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "That's what the internet sounds like," and they're like, "What?" So, I love technology. I love Twitter. I love social media. I love all of it, but I feel like it has taken away some of that collective energy, that ability for people to take real life collective action on the ground and in real life and connect and support each other. And there's an interesting statistic behind it, actually, to do with COVID, which was that communities that had community facilities, like a public village hall or something like that, that allowed people to come together and take collective action on local issues, they received 70% more aid during COVID than areas that didn't, because those areas didn't have little local organised groups that could apply for funding or get this kind of thing going in their area, like food deliveries or pharmacy deliveries or whatever. And it's a very similar thing in the world. And I just want to sort of bring together that ability to harness technology and bring it together so we can have things like this, where we can have communities of people who are not just broadcasting messages or something on there. Sometimes social media can be very one way or one-sided, and I just think that we've got a wonderful opportunity here to take the best bits of real life communities and apply those in online for communities that aren't geographically based together and communities of interest.
Absolutely.
And I want to be a part of that. I want to help facilitate that and be a voice for that. So that's what keeps me coming back.
And I think that's one of the things also. You get a lot of people on social media, and as we're on Twitter at the moment, I'll say Twitter because that's my main place I say, who say a lot, write a lot, whatever. But when you actually ask, well, this sounds ruder than I intend, but sort of saying, also, what action are you taking? Well, I'm tweeting about it. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
But what are you actually doing?
Right. Yeah. You might have got 800 likes, but those people have liked it and then forgotten about it, and nothing's actually happening about the issue. And I think you tweeted about.
I think there's a place. I think it's brilliant because it raises issues and it makes you take note of issues that you may not have been fully aware of before, and you start looking into it. But that is one of the things that translating that into action.
And there are ways of doing it. I've studied a little bit, or I don't want to come across like I'm some kind of professor. I've studied a little bit of the anthropology of social media. And in Brazil, in particular, they use social media completely differently to us. They simply use it as a way of facilitating real life engagement. It's almost like an online invitation tool. It's like they use it, right, we're going to have this festival in this place. We're going to take this collective action in this place. There's going to be a march happening here, or even in smaller groups, where are we all going on Saturday night and what, and they really use it like that.
How did
Fascinating.
how did that start? Like, where does that culture of that from people not having like, I don't know, broadband like 24/7 or
Yeah, maybe that's part of it. Maybe they don't have constant access to the internet. It might be silly things like their weather is always better, so they always want to be outside rather than inside in the computer on the computer. A combination of cultural things, but that have come together in a way that's how social media developed in Brazil.
Yeah.
But do you think that's like the diabetes community though? Because I remember, back in the old days, when I first joined, I get my tights and slippers out. It was all online, and then people started suggesting, "Why don't we meet up?" And so people met up. And once you've met up, then other splinter groups came up, and I know, like me, I organised a local meetup just because I enjoyed meeting people. So, well, how am I going to do that? Well, you've got to start somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that the diabetes community in particular is one of the most progressive online communities of interest that I've come across. We really are. We are, because we do that. We have taken that next step of organising meetups and doing things in real life. And I think that probably there is a cultural reason for that, because we do have a physical need to kind of see each other's pumps and you know, like, how do you exactly do this, which isn't always easy to do online.
And we've totally segmented ourselves. We've totally naturally segmented ourselves, like across type 1 and across other types of diabetes as well. And
it really was one of the first communities, really, because I remember being reached out to back in 2010 by a girl from New Zealand, and she said, "We've got a Facebook group, Girls with Type 1 around the world. Do you want to join it?" And that was one of the first big communities I really ever joined.
Yeah. No, it's really interesting that, because it was when you were describing it, I thought actually that's what we do here. And I know not everybody's met up people in person and things like that, but as others will know, I am known to turn up to things.
You grace others with your presence occasionally.
And she's not a knitted doll.
But I may have knitting with me.
But she comes with knitted dollies.
So that we can recognise you.
I used to be a Lego penguin, though.
Oh, gosh.
It's progression.
That is funny. That is funny.
I've just noticed the time, Natalie.
I know. We really do talk, don't we, ladies?
Oh, this is nothing.
Well, I hope
when we did a 24-hour chat in November, then I think you ladies need to take over for a couple of hours, I reckon.
I reckon we could do a 3-hour stint, couldn't we?
Nobody else may be interested, but we'd be very happy.
No, we'd have a great time.
No.
People logging into Twitter Spaces and just hearing maniacal laughing.
But isn't that what it's all about, right? Is having these moments where you can talk and you can laugh, because we've heard it tonight. We know it week in, week out when we have these diabetes chats, and we see it in forums and other community stuff, how relentless diabetes is, and how like how alone people can be on that journey, and just having just listening into these powerful discussions that you three have had tonight, like, I'm just blown away by it. I really am.
Oh, thank you. It's been lovely to chat. So thank you for inviting me back. And I've noticed that my good friend Verity from the show is listening now. So Verity, if you didn't hear me give you a shout out earlier, I'm giving you a shout out now. Verity from Make Me Prime Minister.
Hi, Verity.
Hello. I'm now going to have to go back and look at it because it's a while since I watched it. Do you know what I mean? I can't remember everybody's name. I'm sorry.
Yes,
and so now I am going to have to go back and verify who Verity is.
I have. Do you know when I do make picture images of like I how people describe something, and I'm just imagining you going to Verity and helping her with a hypo or something like that, and like everybody else standing around like arms as long as their bodies, like not being able to do anything.
That's it. No medics, just Natalie.
Oh, did you have any issues yourself on the show, Natalie?
I had one hypo during the filming of episode 4, which luckily, as soon as I realised I was, they stopped filming immediately, took me outside and let me get better, and then I was able to go back in. So luckily, I was not too bad.
Was it in a speech, or was it like?
No, luckily it was in a bit where I wasn't in front of the public. We were just having sort of boardroom discussions with our cabinet. So the cabinet just, and I was not Prime Minister that week, so I made the Prime Minister wait for me.
Nice.
just letting them all know early on.
Yeah. And you like
yeah.
Prime Minister, not important people.
Yeah, that's it. Absolutely, just know your place.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah. And were they more educated on the show from having you both on about type 1? Do you know?
They definitely didn't know anything really when Verity and I came on the show. The medic obviously knew some stuff, but the producers were really, they didn't know anything. So we, they were great about it, but there was definitely a learning curve. I think
did
Verity
they try?
a hairy incident early on.
Oh gosh.
Because Verity is also she is celiac, so she can't eat gluten. So there was a double complication there with trying to sort out Verity's hypo treatment, which was not readily available as early as it should have been.
And you guys didn't have access to cook your own meals or anything like that because it was on a show. Well, isn't that right?
Well, we were in the first couple of weeks. We were in apartments where we had kitchen facilities, but I mean, our film days we had to be on set from 7 a.m. and we didn't sometimes finish until 10 p.m. So all of our meals during the day were on set. We would get up, get dressed and make up and get onto set. So we'd have breakfast very quickly in the green room, a lunch break, and then sometimes if you'd finished filming, you might get dinner given to you like in a box at the end of the day or whatever. Yeah, it's TV catering, which it's a really complicated thing. So obviously the poor caterers are trying to follow you around wherever you're filming and have hot food ready to, so there were several layers of complication.
Yeah, and I was an extra like a few times, and I remember the catering bus, like the double-decker bus, just to get everybody in and fed and out.
Yeah, we used to get delivered these sort of metal boxes with metal lids, and they would come full of little cardboard boxes, each with a hot meal inside. And they had labelled some, for type 1, although early on they assumed that type 1 meant that I couldn't eat any carbs. So they were giving me these sort of keto meals, and I was like, no guys, I can eat potatoes and rice and things, it's fine, please can I have some?
Yes, please.
Please.
I've just been running around and using my brain all day too.
Yeah, like you're on your feet, sometimes when you're doing the walk in there, they want to shoot it like 6 times, so you're just walking in the entrance 6 times, the same thing, and then you sit down and you've got an hour to develop a policy, so you're like, okay, brain's working really hard and I'm on camera and so Verity's laughing, I can see she's having PTSD as I'm talking about it.
But it'd also be the adrenaline of it as well, because I just think if you're on camera or having to present something, I mean, even just normal work presenting, you get a bit of a spike and stuff, and I always think they're quite difficult, because I always think they're like false highs. They don't need correcting as much as a proper one.
Yeah, I would sort of run a little bit high generally through the day, and then I would get home and get into bed and suddenly drop. So
did you run yourself high? Like, did you try and do that so you didn't have too many lows? Or
I mean, I was trying to run probably like at the higher end of safe. Like if I was running at 8, I wasn't too bothered, or but sometimes it did get a bit higher than that. And obviously I don't want it to be higher than that, because you're on camera and you don't want to have dry mouth on camera while you're talking.
No.
So I was just always aware. I think I was the person who was just like, I was probably the least aware of the cameras. Everyone else might have had an awareness, the camera's on me, or I've got to say this. I was not aware of the cameras at all, because my mind was like, okay, how are my bloods? Does my mouth feel a bit dry? Do I need to go to the loo? So yeah, I was just, it was interesting.
It's finding that level where you feel safe, but also you're not impeded by your levels.
Yeah, by the imminent thought of the hypo. Yeah.
Oh God.
Yeah, but it was great. I actually really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the whole filming experience. It definitely made me want to do more broadcasting work, because I've done it before, but to do that much in such a one long period all in one go, I really actually enjoyed it, which I don't think everybody does when you're away from home for that long and you've got so many long days back to back and things like that. So but it was something that I was definitely up for.
I'm assuming, and I shouldn't assume that just the focus of the program would have been lovely, just to get stuck in and like with the ADHD in the background. And
I was mid-diagnosis when we were filming the show, so I didn't even have a confirmed diagnosis when we filmed. So I don't know if it actually maybe helped me. It certainly helped me in the final, because one of the girls who I was up against in the final had autism, and she was very well prepared, very thoroughly researched and things like that. And obviously when I won in the final, I went back to my dressing room, to my deputy, and he looked at me and he said, don't take this the wrong way. He said, but that was Kelly levels of preparation.
Wow.
And I was like, yeah, I know. I know why.
Did Kelly have glasses? No? Is that Kelly? No?
Yes. Yeah, yes. Kelly had glasses. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
That's interesting. And you weren't even you weren't officially diagnosed then?
No, I had a strong suspicion that I was going to get a confirmed diagnosis, but yeah, I wasn't officially diagnosed. And when Adam said that to me in the dressing room, I just kind of went,
okay.
Oh, okay, other people see it too.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was, but obviously that did me a great favor, because I was very well prepared for all the debate questions, the audience questions, because we didn't know what questions we would be asked on our policy, so we had to create our policy, write our speech, and consider the questions we might be asked and how we would answer them. And I did walk away from that final going, I absolutely did the best I could have done there. Regardless of the outcome, I was happy with what I gave.
Did you get a lot of feedback? I mean, obviously you got the feedback that you saw on the programs, but was there a lot of feedback outside of that as well? Because you could see all of you as candidates going through it, that you were picking up and being more, I'm going to say media savvy, but do you know what I mean? You were less to get cornered.
I think I probably had the biggest leap in education out of all of us. I think I don't think I was the worst when we came in, but I do think that out of, by the time that we got to the final, out of the three of us in the final, I probably had the biggest journey. And yeah, you go into things thinking they're going to be one thing, and you don't really know until you do a job exactly what it is going to be like. And I came out of it with a lot of positive feedback from real politicians, and real people working in the job, and political journalists asking me, are you going to do this? We think you should do this. I don't think I'm ready for a career in politics just yet.
No, you were. I think that's the thing. It was, you were good at thinking on your feet, and yes. I'm the sort of person that 10 minutes later I'll think of the perfect response.
That's me.
As I'm stood there.
Yeah, I'm a rabbit caught in headlights.
I was that sassy kid who had an answer for everything. So I've not changed. I'm just a little bit better researched now before I answer. But
and it's never wrong to say that you don't know.
No, absolutely, it's not wrong to say that you don't know at all. And sometimes you can be very inspiring to people when you say that. So
yes, yeah.
And certainly,
go ahead. Sorry,
I was going to say, it's certainly, you know, there were a couple of things that I was asked in the final that didn't actually make the edit on TV, but they were questions that we were asked that, you know, you could understand why people might suddenly go, oh, people might not react well to the truth, so I'm going to lie. And I didn't. I just gave people the truth, whether I thought they'd like it or not. And actually, when you do that, people like it because they know it's the truth.
Well, that was like the war room. I mean, now we're just doing fan geeking.
Yes, and now we're forgetting actually we're in DiabetesChat.
Yes. Sorry, everybody.
The war room episode, I would love to chat through.
Oh gosh, yeah. We'll have to do a whole separate space just on maybe like, Prime Minister. Geeky moment.
Backstory.
How there were so many. Yes, tip one, don't bomb other people.
Yes. Bombs are a last resort. If anybody ever needed telling that.
Seriously, like, when was that going to be a good idea?
I mean, we're going to have to ask Verity. That was her team. Bless him. I don't know. I thought it made for great television. So, you know.
Yeah.
It did. It was just a bit of shouting at the telly going, hello.
Oh my goodness. Everybody likes to shout at the telly. You have to have a good few shout at the telly moment.
It's a good program though, and it does encourage you to shout.
Yes. I think definitely if you haven't watched it, go on All 4 and check it out because you will definitely get a few laughs, if nothing else.
And I think it's because you guys are like normal people too, like that are not like, it is the alternative stuff, it is the real world, and it is real people on the show, and you want real people to win.
Well, that's it. And you know, actually, I think it's not a bad idea to have real people doing those kind of jobs if they so want to do, because I think we've got a lot of people in government right now who I would say have probably never even had to clean up their own rooms in their lives. No. And that's a very dangerous mindset if you have people in government who believe that there are other people in this country or on this planet who are there to clean up after them.
Absolutely.
It's being aware of your privileges, isn't it?
Yeah. And I think, you can't govern over the real world if you don't understand the real world. Not mentioning any names, Jacob Rees-Mogg. Who Danny from the show, if you remember Danny, recently referred to as a haunted pencil. I just wanted to get that in there because that was really funny. No, Jacob Rees-Mogg fervently avoids me.
I was going to say, I doubt he's on Twitter, is he? I'd have thought he'd be sending missives written in sort of quill and ink.
yeah, sent by pigeon.
Oh, it's been amazing talking to you, Natalie. Yeah.
Thank you. Yes. Yes.
Infobells.
Oh, it's Natalie's birthday!
Happy birthday!
Oh, birthday to you!
Happy birthday!
Happy birthday to you!
Happy birthday to
dear Natalie!
Happy birthday
to you!
From good friends.
Thank you so so much, guys. That's amazing. I was doing a little dance around my room as you were singing. That was amazing. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Oh,
That was amazing. That was amazing. And yes, definitely that has taken the edge off the number tomorrow.
you're only a baby chicken.
Yeah, that's it. You're only as old as you feel, and I still feel 21, so we're okay.
Oh, 21. I'm 27.
And there you go. So, you know, we're great.
Yeah, 20s.
That's it. Prime influencer age.
Oh gosh.
I don't think I remember what it was like being 20.
Guys, sorry to interrupt here. What you tell people is it's 21 plus VAT, and however much it loses VAT, that's your age. You're 21 plus VAT.
Gosh, that's a good
I
one.
love it. I love it.
Oh.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. Oh, well, thank you so much, guys. I'm definitely going to try and take a day off tomorrow for once. I promise.
Good.
Yes.
Good.
Enjoy yourself.
Thank you.
Really enjoyed the chat, Natalie, and
Oh.
hearing about how ADHD does interfere and get involved with type 1. I think we haven't talked about anything like that on Diabetes Chat like this, I think, so far. Have we, Tom?
No, not at all.
Tom's going to have to make a cup of tea.
Not at all. It was really fascinating.
It's interesting learning.
And it's great to cover it, isn't it?
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about it, because they are so intertwined. And you know, if anybody listening to this who is type 1 thinks that they might have ADHD, absolutely, I know I said that the diagnosis is difficult, but it's absolutely worth knowing, because I think not knowing, I always describe not knowing is like playing the game on hard mode, and knowing is still like playing the game on hard mode, but at least you have the instructions and you know which buttons are which.
I like that.
So
last question, like on that, like when after you were diagnosed, you were just saying like with the second diagnosis, have you told your diabetes team? And if you have, how have they supported you
I mean, I'm with a fabulous consultant who some of you might have heard of at Manchester Royal Infirmary called Dr. Lala. And he is so wonderful, and obviously just so he's just a wonderful consultant because of his approach. And you know, sometimes he'll step in when he knows you don't know the answer, and sometimes he'll let you, you know, he'll say what you think it is, and he'll help you get there. And he's been so wonderful with my diagnosis. I've chatted to him a lot about whether or not I take medication. He's come back to me with a lot of information about how it might impact my blood sugars. And, you know, I feel really prepared between that information from him and the information from my neurodivergency team. You know, with that information combined, you know, I feel very comfortable about going on medication. So it's great.
Well, that's a really positive end to the conversation. I think it's like saying to your team and knowing that there is information and support out there, whether they know themselves or not, but like even knowing that it exists and to go search for it.
Absolutely. And I just had somebody on social media reach out to me 2 days ago going, I'm type 1 and ADHD too. So I'm finding the community.
Yeah, building your own community elsewhere.
That's it. It's a sub community. It's like a sub thread in Reddit.
Yeah, it sure is. I wonder how many diabetes sub threads there are in Reddit.
There's got to be so many.
Yeah,
there's got to be so many. Yeah.
Anyways, Tom, are we going to move into forum chat, or what do you want to do with us now?
Yeah, I think
I was just going to say,
yeah.
Thanks to Natalie.
Thank you, guys, and I hope everyone has a great
Enjoy your
birthday.
birthday.
Thank you. All right, bye everyone.
Thanks,
What time is it? What time is it in LA?
It is 2:15 in the afternoon in LA, so I'm gonna go out and enjoy some sunshine.
Claire has her hand up. I don't know if she has a question for you, Natalie. Or Claire?
Oh, yeah. You have a question, Claire?
Maybe not.
No.
No, it's
Maybe it's a
gone.
clap.
Sorry, put
Oh.
it up by mistake.
All good,
All
Claire.
right. Love that. Love that. All right. Well, enjoy the rest of your evening, everybody, and I'll catch you all soon.
Bye,
Thanks
Natalie.
a million,
Take
Natalie.
care.
All
Bye.
right.
Cheerio.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.